Hello, and welcome back to Conversations with Claire. Today, and by the way, I didn't this is Connor McDonald, and I didn't preface for him about where to look, so you're probably like, oh shit, we're going to wind up doing a lot of this. But if you want to engage him and shout him out, you go
Makes
for
sense.
it.
Makes sense.
Because we only have one camera angle because we are bootstrapped.
Let's go.
And that's fine.
Let's go.
Okay, so Connor is the owner of Bar 10 CrossFit. He is a CrossFit level 4 seminar staff, which we're going to talk about that because that's actually in the world of CrossFit pretty prestigious and pretty hard to achieve. And that's my opinion. And he's also a semifinals / regionals athlete. He competed as an individual 5 times.
I believe 5, I think.
That's what the internet says.
We'll go with 5.
Okay.
5 works.
And then you are also husband to the beautiful Shelbi.
She is quite beautiful.
And she's strong.
She's very strong.
Yeah.
She's quite strong.
Okay. So we always start with how we met, and then we dive into why I asked you to be here. So the how we met for us is relatively brief, is literally just that I was on a roadshow for a brand 2.5 years ago now.
It was like right after we opened the gym, so 2.5 years.
Yeah. 2.5 years ago. And so one of the roles of that job was to connect with local facilities, local CrossFit affiliates where we were going to be doing the roadshow, and just reach out to them and say, hey, would you mind if we come in and do an activation, brand awareness, blah. And so that's how we met.
It was for Murph, right?
It was for Murph.
Okay, so we had been open for we opened in January of 22, so that was 4 or 5 months in. We had just opened.
Yeah.
I was grassroots Bar 10.
I was gonna say, did you have any staff at that point? At all?
No, it was just me and Shelbi.
And to this day, my awareness is that you're still so picky that you probably still work yourself to death.
Surprisingly, as of September 1st, I'm coaching half the classes that I was prior to September 1st, which is like 12 classes a week now. So
if I had a soundboard, we'd insert clapping right now. Guys, maybe eventually we'll have that, but it's that's a big deal, because that means that for the past 2+ years, you've probably been what was your volume of classes per week?
Per week?
In the first year, would you say that you were coaching?
35
classes.
We have 7 classes a day. We're open 5 days. So 30, 35, something like that. Way too many.
Yeah.
Way too many.
What do you feel is the sweet spot? And you're still iterating as you go, right? But the sweet spot of coaching for someone who's just coaching.
Just coaching?
Yes.
Classes, maybe 15-ish.
Yeah.
15 or so. And then supplementing that with private training or whatever else it is. But if you're just coaching, I think ballpark 15 is a good spot to be.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, because then, okay, so if we break that down, say that it's 5 days a week, that's 3 classes per day. So then you might hear that if you don't have context and think 3 hours a day, and the energy that gets dumped in that duration of time is insane. And then the preparation for, even if you're not the one writing the programming, if you're simply the coach, if you're doing a good job coaching, you still need to make sure that you fully understand what the intent behind it is,
right,
and how you're going to warm them up, and how there's a lot going on besides the hour that takes place with all that high energy. So it's just it's refreshing to hear you say that and not more. And then I cannot fathom what I've never experienced other than in that roadshow, which was a different beast. I've never experienced having to coach at that volume, and I don't know how you sustained it.
It was not sustainable. Right. I will say that. Luckily, with my position on seminar staff, almost everybody I work with either currently owns a gym or they did at one time. So a lot of great mentors, a lot of people that were telling me from the day I started, hey, you can't do this forever. You need to get coaches immediately. I was no, I got it. You don't know me. No, they do, man. They've done it a lot longer than me. They're just as good, if not better than me. But no, after the year and a half mark, that was when we kind of started to bring in some part-timers. And then the start of this year, we got our first full-time coach, and then September 1st, we brought on our second full-time coach.
Yeah.
So,
which I think
huge.
I met both of them.
Yeah. So Chris coached your class the other day,
yes.
I believe, right? And you know Mads.
Yes. And then Mads, is she the other full-time now? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. So I met both of them, and they were awesome.
I agree. They're pretty rad.
Yeah. I think it's from my perspective. Well, I got a lot of opinions. Okay. Anyway, maybe we don't talk about my opinions just yet. We're going to get there. Don't worry. Boy. So I do want to take it back. Because you have the experience that you have, I kind of want to walk back. And so let's just start at the origin for you of when did you play sports growing up? Was fitness a part of your life? When did you first hear of CrossFit, etc.?
So growing up, I was like every sport. I grew up in Texas, so anything with a ball, I was playing it. Basketball, baseball, football. I mean, all the things. As I got older, it became more of a focus on just baseball, which is a sport that I like really leaned into. So all throughout high school, that was like my main focus. Wanted to play for the Houston Astros and make a career out of it, like every other kid, you know.
Sure.
Played 1 year in college, and then realized that was not happening anytime soon, and I was not quite as good as what you need to be to go to the next level.
Okay.
And actually, that was about the time when I started finding fitness. Well, actually, backtrack 2 years before that, when I was like trying to get recruited by colleges and like go play like college baseball. I was very, very small, like thin, like I'm a hard gainer. And the basically the feedback I got from every coach was like, you need to get stronger. You need to hit the weight room, like go get strong. Yeah. So I just started like look something up on like Muscle and Fitness magazine or something, and was just doing like chest and tries one day and then back and buys the next day. Just like really enjoyed that. And I didn't think I was going to. Then my first and only year of college baseball, like the conditioning was like my favorite part. Like most players are like, oh, we have to go do like shuttle runs. We got to do like whatever. I was like, yes, we get to do shuttle runs. Like I was that guy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the spark for it, I think.
That's okay. Wait. So what year is this? Like on the how many years ago now is this? Because you said you're 31.
32. I just turned 32. I don't know math.
Happy birthday.
I think I did 32. Say 31. Hey, 92?
Yeah, bruh.
Let's go. When's your birthday?
June.
March.
You're older than me.
3 months older.
Just barely.
Yeah, you know.
Okay. Well, I realized I had someone on this last week that is younger than me, and I thought we were the same age. And when we sat down and got to talking, I was like, I mean, I'm 8. Oh my God. I'm only 6 years older than her. But either way, it was like, oh, okay.
We're getting to that age now.
Yeah. Anyway, so how old are you? You're in college when this is taking place. So then this would have been what, 2012?
Yeah, basically like 2008, 2009 is when I started, like the coach would tell me like, go hit the weight room. So I was like drinking as much mass gainers and protein as I could. And like that was that.
Yeah, you poor soul.
Yeah. Just lifting weights. I had no idea what I was doing, but like that kind of like sparked the love for it. And then freshman year when I was playing baseball, that was 2010, 2011. So okay. So I will say it's funny that you enjoyed the shuttle run, conditioning, etc., because I say regularly now, especially having a boyfriend who is extremely knowledgeable and proficient with resistance training done correctly. I have such a different respect and relationship for just like straight up resistance training. And as far as that was the stuff that was like harder, I say all that, like you see somebody who's like a super jacked bro, right? And it could be easy to be maybe an endurance athlete and be like, oh, they don't know hard work, whatever. And then I'm like, bro, when I do like just an outright resistance training session with multiple minutes of rest between sets and so on, like it is so much harder. Like give me a 45-minute AMRAP, please, in comparison to that. Totally.
So
I agree.
I don't know if that's like common, but truly now approaching that differently. And I suppose there's also some level of like, the better you get at understanding what you're trying to target and whatever, you know, then that probably just makes it harder, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I approach like, cause I'm trying to grow my legs. So I approach that day and I'm just like sick. Like sick. Please give me an AMRAP. Please give me an AMRAP. Anyway. Okay. So you're putting on size.
Trying to put on size.
Okay.
Was not super successful doing that. I think I weigh right now I'm like 195 to currently.
Okay.
At that time I was probably 160. So like
wow, yeah.
30 pounds of less human being, same height, just like rail thin.
Yeah.
I think by the time I left freshman year of college, I was probably like in the 180s or so, but like a lot of that was Keystone Light and bagel bites, you know, it wasn't really.
Yeah.
I was a little boy, you know, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. So when did you find CrossFit? Was it in a magazine? Was it online?
No. So ironically, I think a lot of people probably fall into this category nowadays. I was one of those guys that was like, CrossFit's stupid. Like those aren't real pull-ups. Like that stuff's not like, you're going to get hurt, like whatever.
Yeah.
After I played baseball for 1 year, I joined the Coast Guard. Did active duty for almost 4 years. I was in Alaska for most of that time. And very small unit, but there was a group of rescue swimmers that did CrossFit in the gym on base, like on a daily basis. And I would get in there after them and like see their workouts like written on the board, and like wouldn't have any idea like what's a thruster, like no clue what's happening, but I was just intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And these guys were badasses. Like a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard is like a Green Beret in the Army. It's like the top of the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
So just like seeing what these guys were doing, I'm like, well, if these badasses are doing that, like maybe I should be doing it. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be something to it. So I started kind of like dabbling with it by myself. No idea what I was doing once again. So like probably doing terrible technique, like intensity way too high, technique way too awful. And then ended up finding my first CrossFit affiliate I went to when I moved to Michigan. I was there for about a year, and just happened to live right across the street from a CrossFit affiliate. And this was back in like I'm still 21, 22. So like still like partying and stuff like that. Like living in a small town, like right on the like main street of downtown, like whatever. So I'd be like on my balcony at like 4:30, 4:45 a.m., like still up from the night before, like with friends, like hanging out. Mm-hmm. And then I see people like doing tire flips and like rope climb stuff. And I'm like, that looks pretty fucking cool. Like, I want to try that. Yeah. And eventually one day I was just like, I'm going to go tomorrow morning, and just did. So.
And then it stuck.
It was the most humbling experience of my life, I think. And I think that's what like really hooked me, because I was like in good shape at the time. I was active duty Coast Guard. I could probably run close to a sub 5 minute mile. I could do 20 unbroken pull-ups. I could do like body weight stuff, like my jam. Yeah. Like that I could do all that stuff. If you gave me 3x10 bench press with 4 minutes of rest in between, or 3x10 deadlift, like good to go. Right. But I never mixed them. So like throwing in metabolic conditioning and weightlifting and gymnastics all in the same time, like I was completely like out of my element. I was exposed.
Do you remember what the first one was?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, dang. Origin stories with CrossFit are like fun to me. I truly have no idea what my first one was. It's like annoying because I'm like, ooh, tell me, what was your entry? I don't know. I could tell you how I got into it.
It must not have been that impactful.
I don't remember what the first workout was. I have no idea.
That's crazy.
I remember like the fear of driving around the block, driving home. I remember all those things, but specifically the first workout, we also have a lot of addiction in my history, and I like sometimes blame my memory on that. I don't really know, but anyway. Okay. Fair. So, what was your first workout?
Helen. Yep.
Okay. And why did you get humbled?
Mostly because I was let's say I was 23. I don't remember exactly how old, but I was just a 23-year-old, like cocky kid that thought I was like the shit, and I wasn't. Yeah. Cause I could max out the PT scores for the Coast Guard and do all the things. Helen specifically, if you don't know that workout, it's 3 rounds for time of a 400 meter run. Mm-hmm. 21 kettlebell swings with a 53 for us, 35 for you, and then 12 pull-ups. Mm-hmm. So me thinking like, well, I do pull-ups. Like I can do 20 pull-ups easily. Like one of my favorite workouts at the time was to do 100 strict pull-ups for time. And I would just do 10 sets of 10 over like a 30-minute window, not like actually for time. Yeah. I thought it was. Yeah. Like was a fast runner. Like, so I'm like, I'm going to destroy this. And I remember at the whiteboard, the coach being like, yeah, like a really fast time is like under 10 minutes. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna do this in like 5 minutes. Like these guys don't know what they're talking about. So like everybody's first CrossFit workout, probably 3, 2, 1, go, like a bat out of hell. Like run like a 60-second 400 meter run, like dead sprint.
Yeah. I'm like, how? Okay. Yeah. 5 minutes, 400. This math. Keep going.
No, I see exactly. Doesn't check out at all. So I sprint this 400 meter run, right? And most of the class, like I said, I'm like 22, 23. Most of the other athletes in class were like middle-aged women, which like was very not normal for the environment that I was used to working out in. Yep. So I was like, I don't think I should be in this class. I'm supposed to be in like the advanced, like the concept to me like was so foreign. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. Long story short, about the middle of the second round, my entire world just like fell down on me. Like the kettlebell was half my body weight, damn near at the time, so it's throwing me across the gym. I started over here, and by the 21st rep, I'm like 10 feet over that way, you know what I mean?
You're chasing it, yeah.
I didn't know how to do kipping pull-ups, so I'm trying to do like strict the whole time. First round was good. Second round, like I like remember like stopping during the middle of the run and like putting my hands on my knees, being like, I'm gonna puke. Like I don't think I could finish this. And I think I finished in like 17 minutes or something like that. Like at least 5 minutes after everybody else in class. So I was like the guy at the end that everybody's like, come on, like you got it. You can do it, dude. Sure. I was so mad.
23-year-old dude pissed.
Yeah. And it's like people like my mom's age at the time that are like cheering me on, and they've been done for 5 minutes, enough time to like cool down, and did the same exact workout as me. I was so humbled. It was like laying on the floor afterwards, just like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like, what is this stuff?
Why did you choose to go back after that experience?
I think I was just mad. Like I was embarrassed. Like
You had to go get yourself some redemption.
yeah, like I've always been very competitive, like almost to a fault sometimes. So I think it was just like, I can't be bad at this. I can't be this bad at something. Like I have to go back and figure out how to get better at this.
Yeah.
And like, for me, the first introduction to CrossFit was like the sports side of CrossFit, like competing. And that's what my understanding of what CrossFit was. So like, that was my first taste of that, being like, I got to get better. I need to get better at this CrossFit thing. Little did I know it would be like a lifestyle and like a complete like shift of everything I do 12 years later. So
that's cool. So because I really do think this stuff is fun, and I don't know how much, maybe I do talk about it, but like you came in, 23-year-old dude, good shape, played sports, right, thought you were, and then you got humbled by this workout. You also probably come out guns blazing. Like you're like,
for sure,
watch this. Okay. So for me, I come in 2016. Now I have to like do math. What was I, like 25? So, because I came in 2013 and to the CrossFit gym where I lived, a guy that I worked with introduced me.
So you were 21, if we're the same age, in 2013.
Yeah, so then it was 3 years later when I came back. So I tried to go in 2013.
Got it.
And I went a few times, and it was a new gym. And what's so cool is they now have an affiliate out in Colorado that here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go MC their company.
That's badass.
So cool.
Full circle.
Yeah, so cool. So like insanely cool. And they're wonderful. And so anyway, I go and it's newer. There have been college athletes, like they're comfortable with movement. I have no athletic background, and I'm looking at them going, I know that we are not the same, right? So I'm not coming in thinking I have.
It was like the polar opposite of like what I thought in my head.
Polar opposite. So
that's interesting.
And so yeah, exactly. And I think it's cool because I think I talk about this, that 2009, 2010 is the first time I see Annie Thorsdottir on YouTube, and I'm like, what is that? That is so cool. And I'm like researching all sorts of whatever. So I had thought it was interesting from afar, but it was so far removed from any reality I was ever going to live in.
Yeah.
And so then 2013, a person that I know convinces me to come. So I come. And I go a few times, and I'm like drive around the block anxiety drive home. Like I literally did that multiple times. I would look in the doors, look in those windows, and be like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I need to go get fitter before I try this out.
Yes. And I was and that's what I did do. I was so scared that I was going to hurt myself. So they were welcoming. I was in my head.
Yeah.
I joined for less than a month and went a few times, and I canceled. I went away.
Like this is too much.
And I was just getting into like an express gym, whatever at that time anyway. Like I was trying to figure out how to do something. 3 years later, I return. They've now got a different location. It's a little bit bigger, but it's the same ownership at that time. And the same guy that introduced me was still there. We actually now do a memorial workout for him. He lost his life to mental health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that was also a really challenging, that occurred shortly after I rejoined. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was tough because I had this history with him that kind of nobody there knew about,
Yeah.
And it was, but I'm so grateful that today we every year do a workout in memorial of
cool.
him.
I'll do
and
that.
I took that to the gym that I work at now, and we did
Very
that
cool.
this year. And I've had the opportunity to do it in different states, and it's a cool way to memorialize him. And I'm forever grateful to his introduction, because he's who introduced me to that place. Anyway, I come back a few years later once I've got a little more fitness under my belt, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. But I also, like, my expectations, whereas you came in, you were like, I got this, watch this.
I'm about to
humbled.
break CrossFit.
My expectations were zero of self. Like I was like, I'll never be. Okay, just survive,
Yeah.
And so it was a very different coming in. Anyway, okay. So you go back because you need redemption.
Yeah.
When
100%.
did you start to, would you say after that, drink the Kool-Aid of realizing maybe there was something to this approach to fitness?
About 13 days later. It's a very specific like timeline here. So I was become like really good friends with one of the coaches at the gym. She was a girl that was roughly the same age as me. Was a local, had like grew up there her whole life. I didn't like when I moved to Michigan, I didn't know anybody there. Like, and I'm from Texas. I didn't have a family member, a soul that I knew within 1,000 miles. So like one of the first friends I had was one of the coaches at this gym.
Cool.
And within the first week, like maybe fourth, fifth class there, like after class, I'm talking to her, I'm like, man, this stuff is like really hard. Like what I was just so still just like couldn't conceptualize like why every time I come do I think I'm gonna like be a rock star, and I'm not at all. And I'm like dying, like sizzling bacon on the floor at the end of the workout. She's like, you should take your level 1. And I'm like, yeah, what is that? Like, no idea what that means. And she's like, well, there's one in Columbus, Ohio next weekend, which is like 6-7 hour drive from where we were. And I'm like, okay, how do I sign up? Like,
Oh, cool.
legitimately did not know what a level 1 was. I didn't know that was like, hey, this is a seminar you go to if you like want to become a CrossFit trainer, or like she just said, hey, you should take your level 1. And I was like, I'm off that weekend. I'll do it.
Bet.
Cool. I'll ask questions later. Like,
Yeah.
showed up to level 1, like no idea what to expect. Like, and just over the course of that weekend, like completely like everything in my brain that I'd ever thought about fitness, everything that I'd ever thought about, like just so many things were like explained so eloquently, but also so simply that it was like, holy shit, this makes sense. Like, this is the most like to the point, like accurate, like obviously, like why have I never thought of that? Like, what is this shit? Like, this is awesome. So I'm still at that point, like I was in the process of getting out of the Coast Guard. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got out. Like, go back to school? Like, am I going to go like move back home? Like no plan or whatever. And I think my parents, especially my dad at the time, was like a little worried about like, hey man, like you got to get your shit together. Like, what are you going to do? And I remember calling him on the way home from that seminar on Sunday night and being like, Dad, I figured it out. I know what I want to do. And he was like, God, Jesus Christ, Connor, what is it?
Son.
Yeah, like, okay, Connor. Like, and I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I figured it out. I know what I want to do. I was like, there's a thing called seminar staff for CrossFit. These guys in red shirts. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a CrossFit trainer. And he was like, what is, you know what I mean? Like, he's
left field.
He's
for
born
him.
in the 60s, whatever. He's like, what is CrossFit?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, all right, cool. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do? It sounds like I was like, no, I've never been this like sure about anything in my life. Like, was so confident about it. I think he was like still not fully convinced that I was like not full of shit, but I was dead serious. I was like, this is like Matt Chan, Jesse Ward, and Joe Westerland taught my level 1.
Okay.
This is back in like 2013, 2014. So
I think I recognize one of those names.
Matt Chan. So
No, the first one? Was that who you said? The first one? Wait, no, the woman.
Jesse Ward or Joe Westerland.
No, I guess it would have been Matt Chan.
Matt Chan was like a perennial games athlete.
Okay.
And at this time, like the early 2010s, he was like podium. He was like Pat Bellner or something like that. He's like gunning for like the top spot.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was.
Right.
Like, so like,
right. You showed up to the L1 not even knowing what the L1 was.
I had no clue.
Which is so cool.
It's crazy now to like think about it.
Yeah. What would so this is cool because you could play out different scenarios, and thankfully you had the one that you had, and I'm going to be curious about more down the road, but like, you know, had you not had a coach who then just said, you know, like there are many people who will walk into affiliate and never be encouraged to take an L1 ever, right. You know? And so you just so happen to be encouraged to take one of the, like, that's just an interesting trajectory that is a bit different than more often than not, right?
Yeah. Her name was Claire too, ironically.
Sick. Shout out Claire. Okay. So you take your L1. How long ago? So you want to be a red shirt from there. And I think that's really, let me ask then, because you go 13 days from I try it for the first time, I get bodied by it, but it was only within the past few years prior to that you were looking at it going, that's bullshit, that's silly, that's not actually fitness. Right. What are those pull-ups? They're not real. So like your mindset shifts to curiosity, willingness to try, to now I like over the course of
180.
From that to 13 days later. Right. So if you could take yourself back to then, what were like one or two of the things that they told you that if you like, not necessarily today, because today you have such more expanded, like true experience perspective with this, but all the way back then, what got something to click in your mind to go, there's something to this. I actually believe them.
So I remember specifically the nutrition lecture. Matt Chan gave that one. And if you've taken your level 1, which I think you've had it, yeah. Like it's so simple. And like, it's a 50-minute lecture where basically it breaks down, like you eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some for little starch, no sugar, like done. But then they elaborate on it for an additional 45 minutes, basically talking about like, in a nutshell, the concept was like, it doesn't matter what diet you want to follow, like just simplify it and do the basic stuff that 90% of people can't do, and you'll be fine. Like, just start here.
Yeah,
right?
eat real food.
And like, I was into nutrition a lot at that time, and was like always the person that was like trying whatever the next, like, what was the popular diet at that time? I was doing it probably. And then 3 months later was doing keto. And then 3 months later was doing carnivore or whatever. Like, always trying new things, like trying to like find the magic pill. You know what I mean?
Well, because at that time you were probably still trying to gain weight. Is that right? Or you had
I don't think so at this point, because
Okay.
I was not trying to like play collegiate sports. I was just like trying to be in
Trying to
shape
be
or
healthy.
whatever. Was very, very like interested in health and fitness. I just didn't have a direction of like what like subcategory or what part of that.
Sure.
And this was just, it was just so like, it was so broad and so general, but at the same time, so like,
practical.
yeah, like everything that they said was just like, so you're telling me all this shit that I've been reading and like doing for the past, like these crazy diets, I just got to do that? Like, that can't, there's no way. But then over the course of the weekend, it was just like the same theme. It was like, hey, we're going to break this down and make it like very, very intricate. But at the end of the day, like, we're making it this super, super complex like thing that on the internet and all like fitness, nutrition, like nobody can agree on the same thing. And we're just telling you like, it's not that complicated. It's just doing this. And that like just blew my mind.
So what I hear is that the foundation of it was something that really got you. Because I think that's obviously, we are going to get into the difference between the sport and the methodology and all of that. But that's something that like today, would you agree that even the general person actually with some awareness of CrossFit or even participating in classes may not know that that's the foundation? Like, that's very possible.
Yeah, I think unfortunately that's the case more often than not at a lot of affiliates. Being that I have the job that I have and I get to travel and meet so many different people from different parts of the country or the world that are like different experience levels from different gyms, all the things, like it is kind of disappointing sometimes when we hear like, I've never been explained that, or like, I had no idea. You're like, man, what have you been, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, it's cool to be able to like spread that message and like be like, no, this is why we do what we do. And this is like the experience that I got at my level 1, be able to pass that along to people. So
Yeah. Okay. So that was the first thing. Was there another thing that really stood out to you all the way back then that you were like, whoa, perspective shift?
for me, this is more of a personal thing, not as much with the actual like content or the context of the seminar. I hated school. Like, I was always the kid growing up that was like constantly getting in trouble, but it was always like, he's so bright, he just won't apply himself. Like, that I was that kid that was like, oh, he's so smart, but like, he just like, I just didn't care. Like, geography, algebra, like that stuff, I just had no interest. Like, all throughout school, I was the guy that was like, what's funny?
I'm just thinking about, I relate to you in this, and I'm thinking about something in the past 24 hours of my life that occurred that it's alignment. Go ahead.
But basically, like, going to school, like all the things, like I did a year in college, like high school, like I never had any interest whatsoever in like paying attention or learning the things that they were. I just thought I was like, I'm not like, academic stuff is not for me.
Yeah.
Like,
well, in these days you would probably get labeled with ADHD or whatever, right?
oh, totally.
I mean,
I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the culprit of what it was the whole time. But also, I think there was just no interest or like motivation. Like, I didn't care about it.
Right.
At the level 1 seminar, that was the most engaged, the most tuned in to anything I've ever been in my entire life. Like, from the get-go, like, I'm taking notes and I'm like, I'm memorizing things they're saying. Like, not because I had a test coming up. I just did. Like, and that was like a foreign thing for me.
So let me ask you, when you walk in, these people in these red shirts, you're still relatively new to the whole thing, and not that long before it, you're questioning it.
Right.
Something about the way that they presented themselves commanded your respect of them enough that you listened and were engaged, and then they continued to keep your attention in a different way than you were used to. Could it be that like the way that they presented themselves, the way that they carried themselves, the way that they moved, the way that they spoke, maybe that was so much so that you're like, well, now I have to listen. You know, I think about how often we get information from people that we're like, you have literally nothing I want. Why am I going to listen to you?
You're not engaging whatsoever. Like, there's none.
Yeah. Whereas the seminar staff because I've had the opportunity to take 4 different certifications within the CrossFit umbrella, and I feel very grateful for that. And a consistent theme is a respectable individual is speaking to me.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I'm biased obviously because I'm on the team now,
Totally.
but like, I think that the red shirt like represents a lot of things. One of those things being like you are a jam up presenter or speaker, like you can engage an audience like no matter what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely had something to do with it. I mean, like from the get go, like you said, it was like eyes on, like I'm paying attention.
Yep.
What are we doing here? What's a level 1? What is CrossFit? I don't care. These guys are interesting. Like it was just, the whole thing was like phenomenal to me.
Okay. What's next?
One
you get
thing
the L1, then
before
what?
I have to point this out because like you're doing your MC stuff at the comps and stuff now. So at this time, I'm still like the shitty, like cocky 23, whatever year old kid. There's 2 boys sitting next to me that are like 13, 14, twins, this big. Got dropped off by their parents, like lunch kits, backpacks. They're sitting like in the 2 chairs next to me. And the instructors kept fucking with them the whole time, like making like jokes, like inside jokes or whatever. And I was like, who are these kids? Like, why does everybody know who they are? Right? Day 1 workout, same workout that it is, or actually at that time we're doing pull-ups. I think we did Fran, and they did it in like 2.5 minutes and just like dusted everybody.
Yep.
Saxon and Spencer pancake.
Shut up.
Swear to God.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I had no, like, I remember seeing them actually, the first year that I made regionals was maybe the first year that they did too. We were like right around the same, like, obviously they went a little further than me. But I remember seeing them and be like, holy shit, that's the kids from the level. Like, just no clue. I was like, oh my God, Scott Panchik, that's their brother? Like, just mind blowing.
Yeah. Starstruck. That's so cool. And then you also think we play that out all this time later. So obviously it's 2024 now. We're a good chunk of time beyond whenever you got your L1 with the Panchik brothers, the younger Panchik brothers. And now, and I don't know them personally at all, but I do create or consume a decent amount of content within the space because I'm passionate about fitness too.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I think it's Spencer, if I'm saying it correctly, I believe was just recently on a different, on the Savant podcast and just really preaching the methodology.
I think I saw like snippets about that. That's crazy. Yeah. That's a full circle moment, kind of like
so cool.
Yeah.
And yet again, I really hope I'm saying the right brother when I say that, but I believe it was him. Either way, it was one of them. And it was very obvious that yet again, what were the like, hey, let's like look at the methodology. Let's look at what's happening within these gyms and how different it is than what you're seeing at the games, etc. Right. Which, in my opinion, both have their place.
I agree.
And yet they're 2 different things. So, okay, you go from your L1. Now, do you start coaching? When do you get your L2? Like, where does it go from there?
So I ended up, this was in June of 2014, I believe, either 2013. It was 14 because that's when I got out of the Coast Guard. I ended up getting out of the Coast Guard about a month later.
Okay.
Moved back to my hometown of Beaumont, Texas, just with no plan of what I wanted to do. Besides, like, I'm going to be a CrossFit trainer in a red shirt. How I'm going to get there, what that consists of, no idea, but I'm going to do it. So I moved home, and it just happens that my dad was a football coach and teacher at the time. And the school he was teaching at, there was a woman that was also a teacher that her husband had just opened a CrossFit gym, like, or was like in the process of opening a CrossFit gym in the same town. So like he gives me his contact information, like recommends me to him or whatever. And I just like show up to the gym one day and he's like painting the walls. They haven't even opened yet. Just walk up and I'm like, hey, I'm Connor. Like, are you looking for a coach? I have my level 1. Like,
right.
I got it last week. Like
he's probably like, what?
Yeah. And I'm like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, who's this 23-year-old kid? Like, probably like laughing on the inside of me. And he was like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, we're going to open in 3 weeks. So just like show back up and we'll go from there. And then long story short, I ended up coaching at the, probably 6 months later, if that.
Yeah.
But I went through like a shadow process and like intern and like, he taught me like, Jason, shout out to Jason. A lot of the like baseline, like introduction to coaching of just like how to treat athletes and how to interact with people and stuff like that was like like he showed me all that stuff, which was really cool. So I coached there for 4 years, I think. And that was pretty much all I was doing. I went back to school for like a year and same thing. I was going for nutrition and I would be at the CrossFit gym or like doing CrossFit online courses and just like so engaged. And then would go to my nutrition class and just like check out. It's like, this isn't interesting. Like, I don't agree with this stuff anymore. Like we're still learning about the food pyramid and these guys are telling me like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So after like less than a year, I was like, I'm not going to go to school anymore. I'm going to lean into this full time. Got my level 2 and then ended up moving to Boulder, Colorado to coach at CrossFit Roots in 2018, I think, like right at the beginning of 18. And that was when it like really started getting like full time and like I really leaned into it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So level 1, I know it's a weekend, you pay a certain amount of money, you go take it. Same thing with the level 2, same concept. Totally. I have not taken my L3 and the process yet. Yeah, I agree. And then also to get to so I actually, to be honest, in this moment, I couldn't tell you the clear path to L4, but I'm pretty sure that it's a pretty challenging path. So can you kind of brush me up on like how we get there? Cause I think it's a lot more involved at that level.
How I got there specifically, or just like in general, what's the like
path?
Just the general pathway to get there.
I think how you got there is the path that you took still in place today? Okay, cool. Then let's talk about yours.
Excuse me. So like you said, the level 1 and level 2, they're weekend certificate courses.
Yep.
The level 3 is the first accredited, certification. And this is like ANSI jargon stuff. That's like, not like, unless you're in the space, like who can tell the difference, but, it's the first one that's a certification. So for the level 3, you sign up through like a third party like testing facility, like it's at a proctored like place. And like if you went to go take the bar exam or something like that, you find like Austin Community College and like schedule a date, pay your money or whatever, go do it. It's like 160 questions, I believe. And the reason that it's what differentiates it from a certificate course from a certification is that there's no like study guide, or there's no material they send you. It's like anything goes, and it's not just CrossFit. So like anatomy, physiology, nutrition, exercise science, like first aid, like obviously CrossFit. Like you're basically going into the like test being like, I am prepared to anything under the realm of like fitness or health. Like I'm equipped.
So L3, you literally now just pay a fee to go take a test at some sort of monitored site. You take the test, and that's that. That's L3.
That's it.
Bro, I've been around for like a minute and I didn't know that.
So I don't know the exact number, but the pass rate at the time when I took it was very low. It was like less than 10%, or I was told that at least. I don't know if that's actually the case, but I never met anybody who had passed it. And
Did you find it challenging?
It was a hard test, but I mean, shit. I was working at CrossFit Roots at the time. I'd been there for probably a year or so when I took the test, and like that place is the mecca of like CrossFit, like by the book. So like everything I was doing, everything I was learning, everything I was like it was so CrossFit and so like to the core what I needed to be doing that like it didn't seem that challenging at the time. Yeah. But I think if it wouldn't have been for being at Roots prior to the test, I probably would have found it a little maybe different than that.
Okay. But still to this day, it's the same structure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you take your L3 because you've been bathed in the Kool-Aid. You managed to pass. Then how do you get from L3 to L4?
So for the level 4, it's an in-person evaluation. And they actually just put it back live at the beginning of last year.
Okay.
It's the beginning of 2022, I guess, was the first, like, so for years there was no level 4. Like you couldn't get a level 4.
3 was highest.
There was however many people, 50, 60 coaches that got grandfathered in from the old system that was like before I even knew what CrossFit was. So like, I don't know a lot about that system. But when they implemented the new level 4, that I was one of the first people that signed up because I was so like eager to like, I'm going to get it.
What's
next? Basically what happens is they, like you sign up, let's say you go to a facility, you're going to go take it at CrossFit San Angelo or something, like wherever it is. Yeah. You show up at a gym, you don't know the people, you don't know like how to work the clock, you know nothing about the gym. You just know like, hey, I'm going to go here, I get 2 classes to coach, and I'm going to get evaluated. It's terrifying. It's like, talk about being nervous or like having anxiety. Like, all right, I'm just going to show up and have like 12 athletes and I coach them, and then these 2 strangers are going to walk around with clipboards and just like
critique the crap out of you.
And there is no feedback.
And by this point, you've coached realistically. So you had 4 years somewhere else.
I've been, for my level 4, I just passed it last year. So I've been coaching for 10 years full time.
By now you're an affiliate owner by the time that you pass your L4. I just think that's so cool because it was terrifying to you, or it was something that freaked you out. And yet you by now have fully opened your own facility and coached, I mean, just hundreds and hundreds, I guess probably thousands of hours by now, thousands of hours. And it's so funny because it's like, well, you have the skill, but I completely understand when you take it seriously.
Yeah. Like it's the highest credential that we offer for CrossFit. So that being said, like obviously they're going to hold a very, very high standard for the test.
Did you get feedback after the fact? So they didn't do it in the moment. In the moment they observe you.
Yeah.
Afterwards, do you get
feedback?
Criticism?
So I actually failed it the first time I took it, which is not uncommon. Like the pass rate for the level 4 is even less than the level 3. Like it's very, very challenging.
Okay.
It's very clear what they're looking for, but it's like the standard's very high.
What are they looking for?
Basically, I mean, the 6 tenets of coaching, presence and attitude, demonstration, seeing, correcting, group management, and I'm blanking.
You're on the spot.
Oh man,
I know. Isn't that tough? Yeah, you're the one that has to be like I could literally just derp around and mess up the whole thing and it doesn't matter.
But essentially it's like all the tenets of like, I'm not only an expert like programmer, I'm not only an expert at like getting people to scale properly. I'm not only an expert at like everything. Sure. It's like you have,
there are many components.
You have shown and displayed that like all these components of like being a stellar coach, like you have them all.
Yeah.
Like not like, oh, you're really good at this one, but you got to work on that, which is the feedback I got the first time. It was like, hey, you have some areas you need to improve on.
What were the areas that you needed to improve on?
Seeing and correcting mostly, like specifically dynamic movement. So like, think static would be like, hey, you're in the bottom of a deadlift position, and you're like blah blah blah, and then the dynamic would be like on the actual deadlift itself, like hey, the bar
while
path
they're
or whatever,
in motion.
yeah, like which is tougher, like things are moving.
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly dynamic seeing and correcting, and I had a little bit of static stuff, but that was like probably the best thing that ever happened to me as a coach was getting that feedback, because I've worked on it for a long time and then went back and took it again. So
I think another thing that is so cool that I got from, because I've been very, like I said, fortunate. I mean, of course, I've like expend the energy to do these things, right? But I've gotten to take a lot of certifications. Now, it's interesting too. I took my L1 and L2 with no plan to ever coach. So I did those two and a couple of other one other one. I think by the time I took my 4th one in that space, I was already coaching. But either way, I took both of those purely out of curiosity for the education.
That's cool.
Zero desire to coach. None. Zero. So now being in the fitness space for a little while now and getting to coach and getting to take certifications outside of that umbrella and in it and so on, or certificates there.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah. You're going to, no, it's okay. Correct me, please. But then getting to take other certification courses elsewhere, etc. Seriously, it's been long enough. Please correct me. And what I really appreciate that multiple things within that space, of course, the L2, there's another thing, the coaches development program that the guy that Bryce, coach development program. You
did that through CrossFit?
That one he's within so there was I think Bird Box is the name
of
CrossFit.
Okay.
So I took that one as well. It's a separate one.
Super cool.
But then, and that was really awesome. And that was so geared toward coaching. I'm getting towards something, if you'll just bear with me here. Sometimes it take a while to get to my point. And I could work on that. So then the CDP, that's not one that it's just simply like Bryce's 12-week course, assuming it is what it was when I took it. He owns an affiliate, has ownership interest, in my understanding is in a good handful of them. Anyway, it's his thing. So it's not necessarily like CrossFit sanctioned or anything.
Got it.
But it's still within that world.
Like
So that's what I'm...
Preferred course or something like that, probably.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it stands there. Yeah, we'd have to go look. But either way, it's definitely like, that's where it's coming from, right? Is this world. And then I've had the opportunity to take some that are not in that world at all. And what I really do appreciate about a number of different ones of those, that's a clear, stark contrast to me in comparison to other things, is there's a difference. And I know I'm going to say this to you and you're like, yeah, duh. But really, there's a difference between instructing and coaching.
Totally.
Right. So I say that to you and you're like, yeah, that's literally what we teach. And yes, but being in the fitness world, you even in CrossFit facilities, see all the time. I just have a lot of gratitude for that being drilled into so much of the education that is baked into that, because I wouldn't have known that coming in. Right. I wouldn't have known to differentiate the two, or to try to make sure to prioritize that correction and all of that you speak about, and not just here's what you do.
Yeah. If it was that simple, if you just could explain it to someone that did it perfectly, like everybody would be a great coach. Like it doesn't matter how great you explain something, they're not going to do it like you want them to, most likely.
Right. And the opportunities that are present throughout the course of the time that you're with the individuals for you to help them get a little bit better. There are so many opportunities.
Yes.
And so it's insanely cool. And I mean, I say that we could all always get better too, but anyway, I appreciate that from CrossFit.
Yeah.
So, okay. I have so many notes now. Is there anything else you want to add about your trajectory? And congratulations on your L4, because that is a big deal.
Yeah. It'll be coming up on a year in December. I haven't had it for that long. So, no, I don't think so. The level 4, yeah, it is actually to my knowledge, is the only in-person evaluation from any fitness avenue, like not specifically CrossFit, that exists right now.
Really?
Yeah. So it's awesome. I think
Do you know how many people hold that certification?
I believe it's give or take 100
in the world.
Yeah.
It's not many.
In that ballpark, I would like, don't quote me on that, please, but I
was going to say, I know I'm asking you a lot of hard questions here.
I think, because I actually asked somebody this that knew the answer to this question, like not that long after I passed. I was like, is there a lot of us? Like how many? And it was like, if I remember right, it was between 100 and 150. Like it wasn't a lot worldwide. So not many.
I now want you, and yet again, just congratulations. I now want you to explain to me the difference from your perspective, having the experience that you have, the perspective, the education, etc. What is the difference between the sport of CrossFit that you see on YouTube, etc., and the methodology that is practiced and applied in an affiliate? What's the difference?
That's a great question. It's kind of a double-edged sword, like a two-part answer, because in theory, the CrossFit Games and competitive athletes, like semifinalists, all that stuff, is just a more advanced expression of the methodology in and of itself. However, I believe that they are two separate entities, like competing in the sport of CrossFit and doing CrossFit as a form of GPP, general physical preparedness, just for the everyday person. I don't think they're exactly the same.
Does that have anything to do with that continuum? That whole, what is it, sickness to wellness continuum? Yeah. Am I saying that correctly?
Sickness, wellness, fitness. Yeah.
So would you say that that's at some level, right? You've got the GPP, what you're saying of people going to an affiliate to get their general preparedness for life in their CrossFit class, et cetera, versus athlete going for competition, pushing over beyond.
Yeah, I think keep in mind that like we're talking like the elite of the elite, like the games athletes. Like I would argue that some of them aren't super concerned with like longevity and like their overall health. What they're concerned about is going faster, getting stronger, shaving off seconds to beat the guy next to them to earn more money or to get a higher placement or whatever it is. It's almost like a exaggerated, like gone a little too far. Like if we're talking about GPP.
Yeah. And these are opinions. And I will say,
totally.
I too think that I have so much gratitude for people who are willing to strive for like remarkable things.
Oh, 100%.
Because they inspire me.
Same.
So there's that. And then what about the rest of the world?
Yeah. It's like, it's almost like at this point, as someone that owns an affiliate and traveled the country doing seminars for a few years now, like sometimes it's frustrating to me because the old adage that I hear all the time, and I'm sure there's people that are going to be listening to this that'll think the same thing. You've probably heard it hundreds of times, is like, that's what CrossFit is. People watch the CrossFit Games. They're like, well, I can't do CrossFit. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like think of when you joined, like your perspective of like, I'm not fit enough to, like, I need to go get fit. I need to go work out before I start working out doing CrossFit. That's like,
absolutely.
Hey, I need to go learn how to play guitar before I go take guitar lessons.
Yep.
Like that's not how this works. Like This is for everybody. It's like watching the NBA slam dunk contest and be like, well, I can't play basketball. I can't do that. Like, okay, obviously.
Right.
Not very many people can. Like these are not regular human beings. These are the best in the world that like have, not only are they genetic freaks, but they've committed years and years and years and sacrificed who knows what to get where they're at.
Totally. That's
not what we're saying CrossFit is in the everyday affiliate and like what my grandmother or the neighbor next door needs to do. It's just a cool expression of that, like what you can get from this program. But 99.99999% of people that are doing CrossFit, like, hey, we're just here to look better, feel better, you know?
So what actually happens in an affiliate?
What do you mean?
Well, so we've now distinguished that sport at the highest level is so separate from what actually takes place over the course of an hour in a class and the demographic that you see. And so as an owner of an affiliate, I get to see some of the content on your page and see that there are really cool things like it's big sisters, big brothers, big.
It stands for Brentwood and Georgetown.
Okay.
It's an organization that special needs adults, basically.
Okay. So in your affiliate, I've also gotten to go here recently and partner with one of your 16-year-old clients who.
Probably.
Yeah. It was great. His mother is making him go.
Will?
Gosh, I hope. Yeah, I think so.
Like tall, lanky guy, long hair. Yeah.
And it was so great. Like we got to talk about like, hey, why are you doing this? Oh,
my mom making.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Classic.
And then of course, me being me and my little inability to not give advice, I'm like, you could stick with this and be great.
You could be great.
Yeah. You just have to keep showing up. I used to think I never could either. He's like, what? I don't even know.
I don't even know you.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but so I just mean, if you don't know, if you're an outsider looking in, then you see that version that's online. You're like, oh my gosh, I must get fit in order to enter the door. And so I'm out. Because of course we have the rest of the world that is like, I still, in Austin, Texas, microcosm of wellness in comparison to the world, right? Mm-hmm. And I get the beautiful opportunity to use the internet to coach people. And it is so cool. And it is such a helpful reminder of what the world actually is. You travel plenty, so you see it, right? And so then we live in this little bubble of health, and then you expand out, and it's like, wait a second, actually, people just need to move a little bit more.
Right.
You know? And so what actually does happen in an affiliate?
It's a tough one to answer because one of the beauties of the CrossFit affiliate model is that there's not a roadmap of like what your specific gym can and can't do within the realm of like follow the methodology and like legal stuff of that matter. But like, there's plenty of CrossFit affiliates. Like I know members of affiliates, I know owners of CrossFit affiliates that have a little bit different perspective than I do on like the sport, and like they have a very competitive gym, and that works for them, and that's great. Awesome. Doesn't mean that that's going to be for everybody. So like at my gym, everything that we do is modeled off of like what I learned at CrossFit Roots. And at CrossFit Roots, it's like, hey, we have some competitive athletes, but we also know that the majority of our athletes here are not here for that. But that doesn't mean we're not going to support either of them. Like, what's your goal? We can help you get there doing constantly varied functional movement at high intensity, like relative to you. And I think if you haven't experienced that at like a well-run CrossFit affiliate, like with like adequate coaching and people that like actually care about putting thought into their programming and they're scaling appropriately for individuals, like based on what they need, like it's easy to look at that and be like, nah, that's not for me. Mm-hmm. But it's for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Yeah. And so maybe I am asking a quite broad question because it is true that there's so much room for play.
Totally.
But in your facility specifically, you offer 1 hour classes.
1 hour.
And the demographic varies greatly. We even talked about, I was talking to you briefly the other day about like, I really enjoy working with what would be classified as geriatric, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, LOL, even that name, because I'm like, they're so capable. That's like not fair to put them in that corner. But anyway, just aging populations are my jam, you know? Yeah. And you don't have special classes for them. And so some do, and that's great.
Totally.
You at this time have chosen to lump everybody together. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, so actually when we opened the gym, we're right next to Sun City. So Sun City is if you're not familiar with that, it's basically a 55 and up community that there's like 40,000 residents there. It's all just retired individuals. So we're less than a half a mile from that. So my plan when we opened the gym was like, I'm gonna have like a seniors program for like 55 and up or whatever it is. And we maybe did it for like a month or so. And then I just kind of like looked around. I was like, why couldn't they just do the same? Like, you could work out in class next to Claire, and like I feel 100% confident I could coach both of you and get you what you need. So we don't have specific classes for like no matter who you are, what your goals are. Like I just came straight from the 12:30 class when I came here. We had 12 people in that class. The age group ranged anywhere from youngest athlete was I believe like mid-20s, oldest athlete like 77 in the same class doing deadlifts. Like that's what CrossFit is to me. Like that's like, hey, anybody can do this, and if done properly and we apply threshold training adequately to you, like whatever your goals are, we're gonna get you closer to that. We're going to keep you out of the nursing home. We're going to have you be able to pick up your grandkids off the floor with no back pain again. You want to look better naked? Cool. We got you. You want to get off your blood pressure medication? We got you. You want to get a six pack? You want to make the regionals, semifinals, whatever? Like, it just works.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think that's so, I love that. The idea that there's a 20 something and a 70 something in the same class doing the same thing. Hell yeah. And then I also think it's so cool. I can think of other CrossFit affiliates that do offer classes specifically for 55 plus or whatever their cutoff is. And
totally
that
awesome.
Is also so cool, right? So it's like, one of the other things that's been so fun since moving here, and even on the Roadshow, getting the opportunity to like experience tons of different variations of fitness conveyed.
Yeah.
Is I've very much so discovered that like everybody thinks that their Kool-Aid is best.
Totally.
And I even think mine is.
I'm biased as well, like probably.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But I love that. Like, I actually think that's great, you know? And so, like, I was having a conversation with another fitness professional recently who was encouraging me to try and do something different. And usually when someone invites me to some sort of a class or whatever, at this stage of things, I have to be really clear with my yeses and nos. And it's just an immediate no. It's like, with love, there's way too...
With
like,
love, no.
Yeah, well, there's just like, here are my buckets with my fitness. And if it doesn't fit in what is already like a priority there, then it's just a no, because there's too much going on in wonderful ways.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's a good thing.
But like, I was talking to the other fitness professional about, like, well, you should really just try this. And like, no, like, I love that for you. I truly, like, thoroughly love that you love that. However, I love this.
Right.
So when I get the opportunity to spend my hour a day moving my body intentionally, I'm choosing this because I like it, you know? And so, but the facilities that I know of that do the 55 plus, and that's an entire, like, they have such a large membership base that is very accessible to them. And those individuals then form their own tight knit bonds. And then the scaling is so appropriate for, you know what I mean? They get to expend even more energy, even more appropriately, whatever, you know, same with like a kids program or whatever. And so the ability to scale it to all, and then to be able to play the game of like, what do I want to do today? You know, like today it's everyone's in the same one. Maybe 3 years from now it's not, and maybe it is.
100%. That's right. Yeah. Everything you just said is like what was going on in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, have a 55 and up class. Like, there may be a point in time when like I look back and watch this podcast and I'm like, well, now I have one because we had to, because we have X amount of members and we had to differentiate. Like, that might be a thing. I don't know. Like, but at the current time, like, not necessary.
Right.
But
so then I want to ask you too, what's your opinion on another topic of conversation? And I don't think it's quite as big as it used to be, but risk of injury.
Yeah. So that's another thing that, like, unfortunately, like, the narrative is out there for whether it's accurate or not. Like, people have a tendency to be like, oh, people get hurt doing CrossFit. Like, do they?
What do you say to them?
Usually, like, I'm not going to tell somebody they're wrong, like, or tell, like, maybe they do, like, I don't know, but what's the context there? What are we talking about? That would be like, if I just put a blanket statement out of like, oh, if you, like, CrossFitters, like, CrossFit is dangerous, people get hurt doing CrossFit. Like, how, compared to what? Like, oh, basketball's dangerous. People get hurt playing basketball. Obviously, right? Is basketball dangerous? Right? Like, you said you didn't play sports growing up. Do you play?
No, bro, but I'm an athlete now.
You are now. You're an athlete now. do you do anything outside of like competitive like fitness? Do you like play like pickleball or like any like sport, like volleyball or sports or anything, like just for fun?
No, because I'm a coach today who needs to use my body to demo all the time, and the idea of having to figure out an alternative to that as a like if the so for the I would use jiu-jitsu as I like love jiu-jitsu. I love watching it. I love rolling, but live rolls, very reluctant for me because risk of injury. So the same with volleyball,
I think that's kind of a,
whatever. I'm like, risk of injury. Do I want it bad enough? So there's risk of injury with everything, right?
Totally, yeah. And that's kind of,
but yeah, I don't.
I feel like jiu-jitsu is kind of a one-off because the goal of the match is like to literally beat the other person or like hurt them worse.
Submit them through, hyperextension
but like,
of the joint.
Take like football, for example, because we're in Texas and everybody plays football. This is something that I use at level 1 sometimes when people have to bring this up of like, okay, did you play football growing up? Like, yeah, of course. Okay. Like, would you let your kids play football? Yeah. Did you know anybody that got hurt when you were playing football? Or did you ever get hurt playing football? Well, yeah. That seems irresponsible because people get hurt playing football and you're just gonna let your kids do that? And they're like, well, no, that's not the same. Like, Sure it is.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Like you may know someone that got hurt doing CrossFit. Like maybe it was a freak thing. Maybe they were at a gym that they were doing too much weight they shouldn't have been doing, or did whatever, like who knows. But to just put that blanket statement on that, like without context, to me is like
okay,
what are we talking about, man?
Totally. You know? Yeah, I love it. There's actually, I think at this time, and now I don't want to quote the exact numbers because I didn't, and it would have been wise to get them pulled. But, there is some data around like different sports and risk of injury with each individual one. And CrossFit is on that roster, just like Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting and all sorts of other things. And it is interesting because on those I was surprised to see the risk of injury compared to other sports was actually lower than you would have expected.
For most people, it's shocking.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I love to think of is I love that comparison. And to me, whenever the risk of injury thing comes up in relation to this training methodologies, I'm like, the biggest injury I can think of is non-use. Like not using my body sounds like really problematic.
Yeah. Decrepitude.
That sounds far worse than some risk of injury. But however, if I warm up sufficiently and so on, like I stand a decent chance at being okay.
Yeah, totally.
And then playing with that intensity thing, which anyway.
one of the cruxes of like what CrossFit is we do functional movement, right? Functional is a buzzword nowadays. So like, what does functional mean? Like, go to level 1, we'll define it for you, we'll describe it, and we'll give you a definitive characteristic. But if I'm going to say functional movement is essential for everyday life, think of the ability to get up and down out of that chair.
Totally.
Think of the ability to carry your groceries in from your car, put them in the shelf, deadlift, farmer's carry, press, right? Squat. We do these movements because we know that they are not only helpful for getting you fitter, but it also wards off decrepitude. When you lose the ability to sit down and stand up on your own, when you lose the ability to put groceries up and get out of your car on your own, like it's decrepit. Losing the ability to do these things forces you into a situation if somebody else has to take care of you. Like decrepitude is going to sneak in for all of us at some point due to age or like other health factors, genetics, whatever it is. Yeah. But what we say at the CrossFit Level 1 is performing functional movements or doing CrossFit irresponsibly or with poor technique is safer than not doing them at all. Just because simply life is going to demand that you have to be able to do these things. It's like nature doesn't care. Yep. Like you have to be able to do these things. You got to be able to get up and down on your own, right? You lose the ability to do that, so not doing functional movements at all and avoiding them, whether for whatever reasons you have to do that, is the most dangerous thing. Do them with poor technique. I would rather you be doing that than not doing them at all. Yeah. Obviously, I would like you to do them with proper technique under the guidance of a good, like do the things right. Like that's the safest thing and that's what's going to be the best. But like the argument of like, I don't want to do CrossFit, I don't want to get hurt. Like I shouldn't be doing deadlifts. Like what happens if you drop something? You got to pick it up, dude. Yeah. Like that's a deadlift.
Right. And then this makes me think, my boyfriend is so smart. He's been on my podcast a few times. It's literally worth a listen. I know you've listened to 0 of these.
I will now. I'll listen on the way.
Anyway, I'm not calling you out, but I'm calling
you
out.
Right in front of everybody.
No, sorry. He is brilliant. And like one of his thoughts is kind of like the only unsafe movement is untrained movement.
Exactly.
And so I think about spinal flexion, extension, and rotation loaded. Why not? Why not progress through a
that makes
loaded
sense.
Jefferson curl, et cetera, in a progressive manner that isn't too crazy, too fast, right? But because what happens whenever you need to turn and pick the dog up or something like that, you're no longer in an optimal position. Right. It happens like all the time. Yeah. And I don't want a loved one of mine just sent me a text 2 days ago that they were on the floor and something happened and like they were on the floor for the next 30 minutes, unable to get up.
Exactly.
And thankfully they're okay, but like, how can we avoid that as best as possible? Yeah.
Train functional movements.
Right. So can you differentiate for me now? If you couldn't tell, I'm just poking different things that I think are fun because there's I love arguing about the online narrative in a way of being like, no, like what are we, it's so silly. So what is the difference in your opinion between high intensity interval training, HIIT training, and CrossFit?
Oh boy.
They get confused a lot.
I think high intensity interval training is a very specific form of training. CrossFit in and of itself is technically everything. Like you could even argue that a high intensity interval training style workout could be considered CrossFit, but to put them as the same exact thing, like CrossFit is way like much broader, right?
Yes.
And it involves a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, HIIT is like a sublet of a portion of what CrossFit could be. CrossFit could also be 5x5 back squat.
Right.
And then the next day it could be run a 5K. The next day it could be some form of HIIT training, but it's not one and the same.
I love that. I think that's really cool. I've never asked anybody to answer that. And of course this is just but
My opinion, right?
I really like thinking about it like that because it is very easy to confuse. And yet when I think of other practices of HIIT where they market themselves as HIIT and that is what they do, it is really like kind of this, like, you know what to expect.
Right.
Like I know that the loading that I'm going to receive for the workout is going to be no more than blank, and it's not much, you know? And I just know that my heart rate's going to go up like pretty frequently, whatever, right? Whereas if I go into a CrossFit workout, my heart rate might not get up that high that often at all. I might do a lot of standing around and a little bit of really hard effort.
Or you might not. Who knows?
Right. It's so different, man. It just takes me back to when I used to travel a ton and drop into so many different affiliates. I've been in a season of stay put, work hard, and I'm very grateful for like this journey.
See, they're like.
But I like love going and dropping in somewhere and just being like, what is that? You know,
the different interpretations of like what it is and like how they
So
apply
very
it. I agree. I love doing that too.
yeah.
But yeah, I think you just nailed it exactly what I was saying. We just kind of verbalize it differently, but like constantly varied.
Yeah.
The first two words of the definition of CrossFit, constantly varied. In and of itself, if you know what to expect for next week's workout, like we could argue you're not doing CrossFit like we say it should be done. We want to take as many different combinations of as many different things from as many different avenues of as many different fitness regimens as we can possibly think of and mix them together.
Okay. So now, oh shoot, I wasn't even thinking to ask you this. And now here we go. Okay.
Wow.
So for me today, what my fitness looks like is I've got these goals called grow my quads, grow another muscle group. Like I got these real intentional goals of like body composition shifts.
Okay.
And today it's not from some place of inadequacy. It's just become a fun game for me. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. I want to play with this. So I've got that goal, right? But I also love my functional life, right? I want to be able to move through broad ranges of motion with ease and load and all these fun things and do gymnastics and do Olympic weightlifting, all these fun skills that CrossFit gave me that I didn't know that I wanted. I want to do all of it, right? And yet, in order to achieve that other goal of this body composition specific shift, I do progressive overload.
Yeah, you got to you got to stray away from it a little bit.
And so, but I do both.
I love it.
That's what I think is like so fun about it is I'm like, okay, so I love, what is your goal, right? So if that goal for me is that body composition shift, then actually knowing that for this 4-week duration of time or whatever on, 2 different days per week, this is going to look like these are the movements I'm going to do. And I'm just going to progress those, whatever. Yeah. But then on my other days, then I'm varying, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I love it. First off, I think that's awesome. And I think that's not, it should be more common than it is because most people have, not most people, but a lot of people have specific goals that they're training after. One of the things I keep pulling back to level 1, obviously, but one of the things we say about CrossFit is it's a core strength and conditioning program. And we mean that in 2 different ways. One, in the literal sense that it's focused on training your core. Like we don't prioritize like isolated, like smaller sublets of muscles. Like it's a core program. And
that is evident in the body types that you see.
Right.
They have
and then on the flip side of that, it is a core strength and conditioning program because it can be the core of like whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to do. Like, hey, you want to grow your quads or you want to make varsity on the track team or whatever it is. Like this can be your baseline training just for overall athleticism and health. Mm-hmm. Do this 3 to 5 days a week. And then supplement with whatever your other stuff is. It is a core program that's like for everybody.
I love it. Okay, thank you. Wasn't planning to go there. And then I'm like, wait a second. Because it's kind of this almost hybridized whatever version I feel. And when I talk to some other people that are within the fitness space that I really, really respect, and we talk about our approaches, and it's like we've kind of found this blend of something similar to that, where there's this consistent thing, and then there's this inconsistent, if you will,
Totally.
or
Or whatever,
diversity or whatever.
We specialize in not specializing. That's what CrossFit is.
Yeah.
If someone comes to me and they're like, I want to be, they come asking about the gym. They're like, I want to be the best golfer in the country, or I want to be the best golfer. Like, is just doing CrossFit going to get me there? No.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, if you think you're going to come here 7 days a week and just do CrossFit and you're going to become the best golfer in the country, like,
We have a problem.
We no, sorry.
We won't be delivering that
But
for you.
what I will tell you is, if you do CrossFit as a core strength and conditioning program or as a baseline, and then put your sport specific stuff on top of that,
Yes.
you're probably going to get more agile. You're probably going to get more flexible. You're probably going to get stronger, faster. You're going to have better endurance. You're going to have better flexibility. You're going to have better coordination. Which one of those things do you not need for golf?
Right. Right.
But the golf stuff is going to get you better at the golf stuff. This is just going to get you better at like
You're going to be one fit golfer.
exactly. Yeah. Right? There's I forget what it was, but there's Greg Glassman back in the early days. He had a group of like competitive skiers, and they started doing CrossFit like to supplement their like ski specific training.
Yeah.
And after the course, like however many months it was, like 3 or 6 months or whatever, like by them being able to learn how to do pull-ups, somehow they all got faster times. Like, I'm not sure why.
Right.
Maybe because
What
they got
adaptation
a
took
little,
place,
like
yeah.
I don't know, but like it just works, right? So
That's pretty cool. That makes me think of the modern day. One of like Hiller's favorite is Tyson. He plays football. Tyson Bagent.
I don't know. I thought you were going to say Mike Tyson.
Anyway, no. Oh, that'd be sick.
Sick.
You see him in a CrossFit affiliate. What's up, dude? No, just and I believe he's a football player.
I think
And
there is
he's
like a quarterback.
CrossFitter, who is really like seems the narrative that I'm hearing seems to be that he really enjoys CrossFit training and finds it very like supportive to
100%.
football.
And I wish more people would be open to the idea of that and like understand that like truly, I believe that professional athletes, special forces in the military, first responders, police, firefighters, whatever it is, like there's no argument to me that like training CrossFit wouldn't benefit all of the above.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying to replace everything and exclusively do this instead of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you just did constantly varied functional movement at relatively high intensity for you, X amount of times a week, like prepare yourself for the unknown and the unknowable. Like,
Right.
in what world is that not going to like make you better at the thing you're trying to get better at? Like,
Yeah. I love that. That feels like a very open-minded perspective, which is so nice because being online often enough, things get so divisive and then you get a human in front of you and then all of a sudden it's just not that way.
Right.
I just like love it. Okay. I do want to ask you now. So you took your L1 how many years ago now? Your very first one?
almost 10 years and 3 months.
10 years and 3 months ago. So for over a decade, you've been hanging out in this world, progressing your own experience with it. And today you own an affiliate. You just got your L4. Why are you still doing it?
That's a great question. It works, but broader and more like deeper than that, it changed my life. Like 100%. Like I found my passion and I found like what I believe is my calling through like training individuals and making other people move better and live healthier lives. And I want to be able to pass that along to others.
So you feel like this is a vehicle to do that you are happy to be in?
Totally. 100%. Yeah. To be able to like share my experience and what I like have gained through this methodology and be able to give others that same opportunity. If it's one person or if it's 50 people or whatever it is, like, I think that that's amazing.
Yep.
That's why I still do it.
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, it is the coolest thing to be able to impact someone's quality of life.
Totally.
Like, I was a real estate agent for 6.5 years before coming into
Really?
this world. Yeah. And did other things too. But that
I
was
could
the-
see it
that was the
now
most
that I
recent
think
one.
I could see it.
Yeah.
With your face on a bench.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't on benches, but it was on like magnets and all sorts of things. Yeah, it was funny. We did like football schedules every year. And so they were like all over town, like on the bar coolers and
That's
whatever.
awesome.
Yeah. So, like, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they're still in some of them. But getting, as I like to say, thrust into this world of of coaching now, which I was so reluctant to do. And I'm now so grateful to do. It was cool because in that, doing that as a job, I felt really, I really enjoyed it. And I liked, so purchasing a home, someone's residential home, or selling it is a really emotional time in their lives. It's like often your biggest asset. And so I enjoyed navigating that with people. And then finally now doing this, I was reluctant to be a coach because I watched coaches work their asses off and not ever make any money. And I was in a position where I didn't have to work very hard for a lot.
Totally.
Yep. And so that was, I think, what kept me out. And now finally having made that transition personally, the gratification that I get to experience as a result of not just helping. Yes, that is an important season of life, the transaction of real estate. It totally is. And I'm not diminishing. I'm so grateful for it. But like there is a sense of fulfillment that I relate to you in, like, when someone's quality, and they're the one that shows up and takes the action, but you were there to support them along the way and they transform their quality of life. Like, I don't know a cooler experience yet.
Agreed. And personally, I feel the exact same way about it. And it's funny you say that about like the working really hard for not a lot of money, because it's so true. Like the gratification or the reward or like the payout, for lack of a better term, for like coaching is not the money. Yep. And if that's what you're looking to get into and you want to open a CrossFit affiliate or become a trainer or whatever it is, like probably find something else, man. Like you can do well. You can do well enough, but like if you want to, like real estate might be a little bit more lucrative. Like not saying that you can't make money, but
Well, and you see many affiliate owners and so on who also have side hustles. You know, you see a lot of people who own a facility, and then they also do other things that take care of them financially. So this is kind of like a passion thing. But even still, my gosh, the work that's involved, even if you're not the one coaching most of the classes, is still a lot. It's
a lot. But I mean, that being said as well, like I am a example of this. Like there's definitely, it exists, like full-time coaching and making a career and like supporting a family and doing this full-time. Mm-hmm. Like before I opened an affiliate, like I did that for 8 years. Mm-hmm. Like it exists. And I think oftentimes people, this is me on my soapbox, but like people may like put down or like shit on like, oh, like CrossFit coaches, like I'm a real estate agent, but I coach 4 times a week. It's like, it's not a real job. Like, why not? Maybe it's not to you, but maybe at the gym down the street that has a professionalized, I making a salary. I had health insurance. I had all the things as a CrossFit coach. Like that exists.
Right.
Like professionalizing the coaching job is something that I am very passionate about doing at my gym. And those 2 full-time coaches that we hired, like one of the other goals I had with opening an affiliate, aside from like passing along everything we just talked about, was I want to pass along what I experienced. Like I fell in love and I found my passion. And I was like, how do I make a living out of that? Like, I don't care. I want to do this. Like, I know what I want to do. How do I do it? Like, I want to give somebody else that opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the season that I'm in right now, is like getting these guys like there.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's really cool too, that then even whether it's being a coach or coaching coaches, which now you've evolved to coaching coaches as well, is because of the landscape online and because of the volume of individuals who do need help with this stuff, with this quality of life stuff, there is just like, you can make it lucrative, you know? So then I think it could be easy to look at and go like, okay, no, you'll never make money doing that or whatever. And it's like, no, you actually could be quite successful with it, even monetarily, if you play your cards right. You're going to have to work hard, but it's going to be worthwhile. And with access to the options that we have, like, I don't buy that narrative anymore. That like, you can't make it with it. You're going to have to work your tail off. You're going to have to do some different things. But really, I mean, like, I just think that the hybridized option, I feel very grateful that like for me, that I can coach in person and I can work online as well. And everyone has, if they're watching this, they have access to it, you know? So it's cool.
I personally was not a huge fan, like to each their own, but like Zoom and like internet stuff when COVID happened, like I was living in Boulder, Colorado at the time. So like everything shut down. Like, so I had to do that for a little bit. It was not for me. Yeah. Like I did it to get by, but like, man, in person is for me, that's like no brainer.
Yeah. The work that's happening on the online thing, I think, is also very different too.
Totally.
So it's like, it's just not the same.
Yeah. It was very different, and I had no experience doing that. And I don't know that I have any interest in.
Yeah, that I'm that person. Yeah. Definitely. That's it is a different type of work. Okay. So I think that covers it. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about it, or that feels like you would love to share as far as your journey with it?
No, as far as my journey now, I think we covered everything. I think the biggest thing for me that I would like to like pass along to people that like maybe you're watching this and you don't have a great like or very broad like understanding of what CrossFit is like don't knock it till you try it. You know what I mean? Or don't buy into the hype of like, hey, you get hurt doing this, or it's like I got to get fit. Like just try it.
And would you say that if you want to see what it truly is intended to be as its methodology, then like go take your L1.
Take your level 1.
And
right.
remember, because I think another thing there is it could be really easy if you don't know to assume that in order to take your L1, you have to have some sort of minimum level of competency and minimum level of fitness. And that couldn't be less.
Could not be further from the truth. We have people every weekend that like show up and they have never done CrossFit and they're just like, someone told me to sign up. I signed up. I did that.
Right.
Shit, like,
right. Yeah. And so I think that that's another key detail is like, if you're curious and you're not sure what it's supposed to be or whatever, I thoroughly enjoyed experiencing taking that. And then I think the L2 was more geared towards coaching, but L1 was really geared towards understanding movement.
Like, what is this stuff?
Yeah. What are the heck? Yeah. What is this? So if it's a curiosity, that could be a real like, okay, take a look at the map and see where the next one near you is taking place and get curious. If you
can afford it, then I think there's no reason not to if you're interested in learning more.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. Okay. I have a tradition of ending the episodes with you don't know because you don't listen.
I knew there was going to be something though. There always okay.
Oh yeah. It's
well
a
played.
Podcast. Of course, there's a way that they finish it. Of course, she's got some sort of.
If you were on a desert island, and
the previous guest left you a question. I'm just kidding. Actually, those are excellent, and I've never done it. But I enjoy when other people do. So that's not it. It's just 3 things that you are grateful for today. Big gratitude girl around here.
Am I like? Is there categories for the 3? Just anything?
Literally, just whatever pops in your mind of what. Oh, I'm grateful for that.
I'm thankful for my wife because she is amazing and has like I could go on and on, but she's amazing. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Shout out Shelbi.
Shout out Shelbi. I am thankful for the ability to do what I love to do. Or like having access. It's a privilege, and I don't take that lightly. And I realize that every day when I wake up, I'm not going to work. I'm going to do something that I like to do, and I'm thankful for that. And then I'm thankful that you asked me to be on this podcast because I had a good time. This is cool.
Yeah, that's like the best feedback you could get is that like it was good. I would hate for somebody to walk out and be like, "Damn, that was awful."
That's fucking lame.
I would like to never hang out with her again. I hope that has never been anyone's experience.
Nah.
Anyway,
not for you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes. I really think that it's been really fun, like I talked to you about beforehand, to just kind of pivot with the podcast itself and go like, what are conversations that I want to have? And whenever I moved up this direction and I'm closer to you, I'm like, you have so much, like you are in the trenches of it and have been for so long that your perspective is quite valuable about this thing as it's gone through its many seasons and its public perception and it's you name it.
Appreciate that.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So my 3 gratitudes today. 1, I will be grateful for just like spiritual principles of action. So this one today, I mean, something as simple as like I got convinced a few years ago to pray every morning on my knees, and it's a sign of humility. And so it's like, I love it. So I'm grateful for doing that. It's very, very simple and it's been very transformative. And a few years ago when I got told to do it, I was really disinterested in doing it.
Look at you now.
Yeah. Now it's like the man, I need it because I'm a selfish asshole when left to my own devices and I need to work on that. Okay. I am also in the theme of this. I am grateful for a physical body that tolerates a lot from me because I ask a lot of it all the time. And right now I'm like, I think the cumulative stress, I could probably take like a month deload from life, to be honest.
You can handle it.
Yeah, it's cool that it'll take on just such volume. And then the last thing is I'm grateful for having people in my life who are willing to communicate with me through struggle. Just like if it's a hard conversation to have, are willing to have it anyway, respectfully. I think that's something I probably didn't have access to before that I'm just grateful for.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Call to action. Guys, I have to get better at this. I have a note for it. CTA. If you're still listening, one, I just want to say that your time is extremely valuable. So we appreciate you being here. And if you would take the time to like, subscribe, comment, share. If you feel like there's someone that this would positively impact, I appreciate you sharing it. And then subscribe, bro, because we're on YouTube now. So like, do it. And then if you are ever in Georgetown, Texas, you have to go to Bar 10 CrossFit. That is the facility that Connor owns, and they do a beautiful job of conveying this CrossFit message. And so go check that out. And then if you're online and you would like a coach to come alongside you and like help you figure out how to pull the levers in your life to have a better quality of life, that's what I do. And it'll be in the description. That's it.
Hell yeah.
We just hope that you choose to have a beautiful day.